What if your missing daughter's voice came through a broken radio? 12 years after she vanished, not a memory, not a hallucination, a live broadcast from a place that shouldn't exist. This is the story of a mother who followed the static and uncovered a nightmare built out of sound before you hear what came through that broken radio. Make sure to subscribe, because once you hear her voice, there's no turning back. The wind rattled the windows in Lukakur's home. Like an old man trying to be let in outside, the first storm of October was sweeping across the hills of Copper Ridge, dragging low clouds and the smell of pine needles into the air. Lena sat cross-legged on the floor of her cluttered basement workshop, surrounded by vintage radios, analog gear, and the soft hum of static. Most of the world had long moved on to digital signals, but Lena hadn't. She lived in the frequencies. There was comfort in the white noise, the silence that wasn't quite silent. She adjusted the dial of her restored Kenwood TS-520. Sweeping slowly through the low bands, static crackled, rising and falling like waves on a shoreline. She did this often, sometimes for the comfort of sound, sometimes for the desperate hope that never truly left her. It had been 12 years since Amelia vanished during that storm at Half Lantern Ridge. She was 13. Now she'd be 25 if she were alive at all. Lena wasn't sure anymore, but what was sure that her daughter's laughter still echoed in this house when it rained. The dreams of her voice were so clear. Lena sometimes woke up thinking she'd simply been in the next room. A sharp tone cut through the static, a blip as she froze. Her hand trembled slightly as she adjusted the fine-tuned dial. Nothing, just more white noise. She almost let it go, but then it came again. Channel 19, 2, 4 to 5. Do you hear me? Lena jerked upright. It was faint, staticky, fragmented, but female, young, and strangely familiar. She scribbled the numbers into her notepad. 245. She checked the band range. Channel 19 wasn't typically used. Here it was, CB radio territory, not shortwave, but the signal bleed could happen under certain conditions if someone wanted to be heard across bands. Lena held her breath, and the voice came through again, just barely. Mom, can you still hear me? Her heart stopped. She dropped the pen and stared at the radio as though it might rise and speak aloud. Then she did what she hadn't done in years as she hit the record switch that night. Lena didn't sleep. She sat at her kitchen table with a battered portable tape deck, playing back the recording in loops. She increased the volume, slowed, it sped it up, ran it through a cheap equalizer. Nothing helped. The message always ended with the same line. Mom, can you still hear me? It could have been anyone, some prank, a recording from a movie, a fluke, but it wasn't. Lena knew her daughter's voice, even warped by static. Even after 12 years, even now. She turned her eyes to the sideboard drawer and slowly pulled it open. Inside were the keepsakes, Amelia's birth certificate, the last school photo, and a yellowed police folder labeled Missing Person, Amelia Kerr. She thumbed through it, pausing at the composite sketch of the older version of Amelia the Bureau had created 2 years ago, what she might look like at 23. The same long lashes, that faint chin dimple. I'm not crazy. Lena whispered to no one. I heard her, that was her. And she picked up her phone and stared at it, and the number blinked back. Maya Kerr, her sister. The last person who'd ever believed Lena was too obsessed to let go. Lena tapped out a message. Need your help now. It's Amelia. I heard her starting again. The typing dots blinked, paused, and disappeared. No response. Lena leaned back in her chair, exhausted eyes fixed on the ceiling. Thunder rolled in the distance. She got up, went back downstairs, and sat again by the Kenwood. She tuned back to channel 19, hoping against reason, and then once more. Don't stop listening. Please, you're the only one who can still hear me by morning. The storm had passed, but Lena's thoughts were still thunderclouds. She stood in the glow of the open fridge, sipping orange juice straight from the carton. Her phone remained on the counter, silent until it vibrated at exactly 8:03 Mup, Maya Kerr, I'm driving up. Don't make me regret this. Lena's reply was instant. Bring your gear, I've got a tape. Maya arrived just after 10. Driving the same beat-up gray Jeep she'd owned for years, a pair of black boots slammed to the pavement. As she stepped out, all wiry energy and sharp eyes, her backpack already slung over one shoulder. "Tell me this isn't another dead rabbit hole," she said before even reaching the porch. "Just listen first." Lena said no hello, no hug. They went downstairs into the basement, where the air always smelled like solar and old carpet. Lena pressed play on the deck without a word. Channel 19, 2 to 4 to 5. "Do you hear me, Mom? Can you still hear me?" Maya's eyes didn't change. She stood still as a statue until the recording looped. "And then you got this from here, your Kenwood." Lena nodded. Was the channel wide open? What frequency range? I wrote it down. 245, but it bled over to 19. It shouldn't have. Maya pulled out her laptop and a small tuner from her pack. "Do you still have the original analog line?" "I want to do a noise floor analysis. I never touched it." Lena said, "I knew you'd want the raw." Maya gave a rare, approving nod. "Let's see what ghosts we're chasing." It took 2 hours for Maya to run the sound through her equipment. She uploaded the signal, filtered the waveform, ran spectral analysis, and started matching against voice sample databases. She worked fast, her fingers flying over the keyboard, stopping only to sip Lena's burnt coffee. Finally, she leaned back. The voice is real. Not a sample, not spliced. It's original. Someone actually transmitted this, possibly live. Lena's throat tightened, and the voice print. "It's an 89% match to that voicemail. Amelia left you before the trip and the last message on your phone." Lena sat down slowly. "Jesus," Maya whispered, staring at the screen. "You hear it too, don't you?" Lena said, "It's her." "I'm not saying that," Mia replied quickly. "I'm saying this sounds like her." "But this kind of clarity over shortwave? It doesn't make sense." She said, "Channel 19, 245. What does that mean?" Maya ran her hand through her short black hair. "Could be a code, could be a CB channel and a frequency in Kurtz. Channel 19's used mostly by truckers' standard band. But 245, that's weird. Could refer to a transmission point or a coordinate." Lena offered. Maya blinked, "Maybe." Lena stood, went to the map pinned to the basement wall. The entire Copper Ridge region was outlined in marker-old pins, still in place from years ago. She traced along the west edge channel. 19 was the last used frequency in the Echo Vale disaster, wasn't it? Allegedly, Maya said, the Gov shut that place down in 1994. Something about sonic testing gone wrong. Everyone denies it now. "But you believe it," Lena said, watching her sister closely. Maya hesitated, then exhaled. "I've intercepted weird traffic from that area before. Nothing this clear, but strange stuff. Bursts, broken code, scrambled voices, then silence." Lena pointed to a spot on the map. "Echo Vale is exactly 245 the Grave west from here. That's a coordinate." Maya turned slowly toward her. "You're serious? She's out there?" "Lena, this could be a hoax, you know, that the girl's been gone 12 years. People mess with cold cases all the time." "I know what I heard," Lena snapped, "and I know what I felt." Maya held up her hands. "Okay, I'll go. But if this turns out to be some idiot with a voice modulator and a YouTube channel, it won't." Lena said, "I'm just saying, if this is Amelia, and she's alive." Lena's voice broke in. "Then we bring her home." They packed light food, flashlights, solar chargers, and every piece of portable radio gear Maya owned. Lena brought Amelia's old charm bracelet. Maya brought a .38 revolver she said was for coyotes. But Lena knew better. They drove out by noon, heading west toward the forbidden hills of Echo Vale. The land changed. The farther they drove, townhouses and grocery stores gave way to old mining roads, forgotten telephone poles, and skies so wide it made the world feel unmed by 230p. They reached the edge of the vale. A collapsed wire fence with a faded government warning sign barely clinging to its post. Maya stopped the Jeep. "This is where the grid goes dead." Lena checked the radio static. "Then don't stop. I'm here, please." Her hands trembled. Maya caught her wrist gently. "Then let's find her." The moment they passed the broken fence and into Echo Vale proper, the silence grew unnaturally deep. No birds, no wind through the trees, not even the buzz of insects, just the crunch of tires over gravel and the faint hum of the radio static still coming from Lena's lap. Maya pulled the Jeep off the main path and into the woods, following an old maintenance trail barely visible through the undergrowth. "This place shouldn't exist," she said, voice tight. "It's been off maps for decades, but someone's still transmitting from it." Lena replied. They drove for another 15 minutes deeper into what looked like nature. Trying to erase man's mistakes, fallen power lines rusted beside trees that grew through them. Half-buried posts stuck out of the ground like broken bones. Nature aggressive and overgrown had swallowed whatever had once stood here. The road ended abruptly near a collapsed watchtower, its rusted frame tilted like a leaning cross. The structure looked burned. Its metal melted in places, as if by extreme heat. Maya cut the engine. The silence afterward was so profound, Lena felt like her ears had popped. And then the radio came alive again. "Follow the wire, Mom. You're close." They both froze. Lena grabbed the portable tuner. "It's stronger now." Maya stepped out of the Jeep, her boots crunching the dead pine needles. She pointed toward a half-buried cable snaking into the woods. It looked like part of an old utility line, thick and frayed in places, but still intact. "That must be it," she said. "Let's move." They followed the cable, for nearly a mile deeper into the forest as they walked. Lena noticed strange markers along the way, pieces of twine tied around branches, strips of colored tape faded by weather. Even a child's plastic ring tied to a bush. Amelia had loved making markers on their hikes. "Breadcrumbs," she used to call them. "Do you see these?" Lena whispered. Maya nodded grimly. These weren't random. Someone's been maintaining a path. Eventually, the cable led to a rust-covered steel door embedded in the hillside, so camouflaged by vines and dirt that it would have been invisible without the wire pointing the way. The faded stencil above the door read, "Property of Echo Facility 09, no entry." Maya brushed away debris from a keypad beside the door. It was dead. No power. Lena stepped forward and placed her palm flat on the door. It was warm. She jerked her hand back. "There's power behind it. Something's running." "I brought tools," Maya said, already kneeling. "Let's see if the door remembers how to open." After 30 minutes of work and a few creative bypasses, the magnetic lock finally gave a metallic click. Maya stood tense. "You sure about this?" Lena didn't answer. She pulled the door open slowly. Inside, a narrow stairwell descended into darkness. The smell hit them first, dust, mold, and something faintly metallic. They flicked on headlamps and stepped inside, their footsteps echoing faintly as the door clanged shut behind them. The stairwell led to a narrow concrete hallway, lined with empty wall mounts where lights once were along the left wall. Broken signs read things like Observation Room A and Sound Stage 2. B. Maya checked her scanner. "We're close. Whatever's broadcasting, it's beneath us." As they moved deeper, Lena noticed faint scrolls on the walls in what looked like crayon or marker. "They told me the sky was dead. Don't speak when the tone drops. Mom, come get me." Lena ran her fingers over one message. Amelia was here. Maya glanced at her but said nothing. They turned a corner and found a heavy steel ductor slightly ajar beyond it. The hallway opened into a massive circular chamber. Rows of shattered equipment surrounded a central soundproof glass booth. Inside the booth sat a chair, straps hung loose from its armrests in front of it. A table with a cassette recorder still blinking. Lena rushed toward it and pressed play. "The test begins at frequency 245 tone. Drop initiates, false memory overlay. Do not leave subject unattended during cycles. Subject will call for maternal figure. This is normal." The tape stopped. Lena turned to Maya, who was pale. "They manufactured emotional signals," Maya said softly. "They used voices to trigger trauma responses. They literally trained the human brain to hear what it feared most, and they used children." Lena's voice shook. "I don't know," Maya said. But this is where the signal's coming from. Suddenly a new transmission burst through the tuner. I waited. I stayed quiet like you said. You promised you'd come. Mommy, Lena dropped to her knees. It's her. They turned their flashlights around the room. On the far side, a small red light blinked from an old surveillance station. Maya ran over and hit the power key. The terminal flickered to life. Barely lines of corrupted code scrolled past, then paused. A folder appeared on the screen. Subject 7, AK. Lena stared at the letters. AK. Maya clicked inside. Were audio logs, video snippets, notes. They played the first file. Subject 7 continues to respond positively to maternal simulation overlays, real-world identifiers, suppressed vocal contact. Increases receptiveness. Next file request. Made. Subject wants to speak. To mom. Technician told to approve. Lena felt nausea rise. They had fed Amelia her own memories, but filtered, warped, rehearsed. She's alive, Lena whispered. They used her. They conditioned her. Maya shook her head slowly. Number used, not anymore. She pointed to a final log labeled Signal Loop. Live active date yesterday. They hadn't just experimented with her. Someone was still doing it right now. They stood over the last log file for a long time, neither woman speaking. Maya broke the silence. The transmission that led us here, it didn't come from inside this bunker. Lena turned to her. But the live signal is routed, Maya said. Bounced off here, relayed. I think this was the loop, her voice repeated. But the live feed we caught, it came from somewhere else. She pointed at a line of data in the terminal log origin, TXN4 Site B L8. 45.170 north, Gialone 222.083. West. Lena grabbed the map out of her pack and spread it across the table coordinates. Maya confirmed, pulling out her phone. Let me convert it. A moment later, the pin dropped. Maya's screen displayed a wooded area about 6 miles northeast, still within the perimeter of Echo Vale. There's no road, she said. Just trees and old ridge, and what looks like ruins. Lena stared at the red dot. She's there. Back at the Jeep, Lena cranked the heater while Mia plotted the hike. The sun was already sliding behind the trees, casting long gold shadows across the ridge, 4 miles to the closest drop-off. Maya said, We'll have to hike the last 2 steep climb. We'll go now. Maya glanced at her. It'll be dark. She's alone. Lena said, or worse, she thinks she is. They packed up again. Lena checked the battery in the signal tuner. It still hummed with a steady pulse. Whatever was transmitting it hadn't stopped, and they reached the drop-off point just before dusk. The Jeep couldn't go further. Too many fallen trees, the trail too narrow. Lena grabbed a flashlight, but Maya stopped her use. Red light, she said, harder to spot. They activated red lens headlamps and began the uphill trek through dense underbrush, pine needles crunching softly underfoot, and the woods felt older here. Forgotten. A kind of dead hush hung in the air. At the halfway point, Lena stopped suddenly. Something glittered on a low branch. She leaned in and gasped, tied carefully with twine. Was a silver bracelet, not new. Faded, worn, but unmistakable. 3 tiny charms hung from it. A book, a cat, a moon. Lena's eyes filled with tears. She used to call it her story bracelet, said every charm told part of a dream. She reached for it, and a note fluttered to the ground. It was just a torn scrap of cloth with blocky handwriting and blue marker. 2:45. Still works. Can you follow me back? Maya picked it up. She left this today, maybe yesterday. She's not just alive, Lena. She's trying to get out. They pushed forward with renewed urgency as night fell. Fully the woods seemed to press in. Closer, more markers appeared, bits of ribbon, colored string, crushed candy wrappers laid out like trail signs at 8:13 p. The trees opened into a clearing. Before them stood a low, collapsed structure swallowed by moss and vines. The stone foundation was cracked. But visible beneath it, a stairwell descended into darkness. Lena didn't hesitate. She descended with Maya right behind her. The staircase ended in a metallic corridor, lit by flickering orange bulbs. A humming sound vibrated the air. A soft electronic whine. They passed faded signage site. B. Observation vaults. Level 1. Memory containment level 2. Experimental audio. I swear this wasn't on any record. Maya said, not even the echo reports mentioned a site. B. Lena pressed on her breath, catching with each turn. Finally, they reached a reinforced door. No keypad, just a handle. She pushed it open and froze. The room beyond was a bedroom, small, sterile, yet unmistakably lived in a twin bed. Shelves lined with books worn and yellowed, a poster of the moon, taped crookedly to the wall. In one corner sat a desk with an active radio set, its dial locked on 245, 000 cohertz, and on the bed a notebook. Lena rushed to it, flipping pages. It was a journal written in an uneven hand, every page filled edge to edge. They said my mom was dead, but I don't believe them. She said the moon would always be the same size, no matter how far away we were, so if I can see the moon, maybe she can too. Sometimes I talk into the radio just to feel like someone might hear me. They stopped answering last winter, but I keep trying. One day, she'll answer. One day. She'll come for me. Lena's hand trembled. She turned to the last page. If you're reading this, then I was right. You're real. Please don't stop. I'm close now. I can hear you too. Maya touched her shoulder. Lena, she turned. Maya was pointing to a small side chamber. A steel cabinet stood open inside, which were dozens of cassette tapes, each labeled Subject 7-Day, 1-Day, 2-Day, 4. 129. Lena scanned the rows over 11 years of recordings. She grabbed the most recent one and played it today. I dreamed of our backyard, and the pink chair was there, and the neighbor's dog barking. I tried to go outside, but the sound came back. The sound that tells me to forget. I fought it. I whispered your name. I remember what you used to say when I was sick. I've got you. You're safe now. Lena couldn't speak. Maya put a hand to her headset. I'm picking something up, another transmission close. They both turned to the far wall, where a ventilation shaft rattled softly from within. It barely audible, came the sound of someone breathing, then, Mom, Mom. The word floated from the vent again, quiet but distinct. It wasn't the fragmented audio from before. This was real, spoken in real time. Lena dropped the journal and scrambled toward the source, pressing her ear against the cool metal. Amelia, she whispered, is that you? A long pause, then. In a fragile voice, like someone trying to remember a dream, you sound like her. Lena's heart twisted. It is me, it's Mom. Sweetheart, I'm here. I'm really here. Silence stretched for several seconds, broken only by the soft breath of whoever was on the other side of the shaft, and then came a single word, barely a whisper, but heavy with disbelief. Lena's breath caught. Yes, yes, baby, it's me. I came for you. Lena, Amelia repeated, testing the name, like it was unfamiliar. They said you were dead, and they said you burned in the sky. Tears spilled from Lena's eyes. They lied to you. None of it was real. There's no war, no skyfire, no end of the world. I never stopped looking for you. More silence, and then they told me, if I stopped remembering, the pain would go away. Lena pressed her forehead to the vent. You don't have to forget anymore. I'll help you remember. I'll get you out of here behind her. Maya was scanning the room, flashlight beam moving across every surface. There has to be a way to that shaft, she muttered. She's nearby, probably in the maintenance wing or a sublult. A low groan echoed from somewhere in the walls, followed by a mechanical thump. She's moving, Maya said. Maybe the vent leads to another living chamber. Help me find the access door. Lena stood, her knees shaking. Amelia, can you hear me? We're coming to you. I'm scared, the voice said. They said if I left, the sound would eat me. Lena closed her eyes. No one's going to hurt you, not anymore. They found the access tunnel behind a broken shelf, just wide enough to crawl through. Maya went first, her flashlight carving a path through dust and cobwebs. Lena followed close behind her heart, pounding the tunnel. Opened into a lower corridor, dimly lit by old red emergency lights. The air was thicker down here, moist and stale with a faint ozone tang. The hallway branched into 3 doors. One was sealed tight with a bowlock. The second was ajar. The third had Amelia's name scratched into it, in uneven lettering. Maya signaled toward the open door movement in there. They entered cautiously, flashlight steady. The room inside was small, half observation cell, half bedroom. A cot, a desk, a water dispenser. And curled in the far corner, knees drawn to chest, was a young woman. She looked up, eyes wide, and unfocused in the red light. For one long, suspended second, no one moved. And then Lena said softly, "Amelia." The girl blinked. She was thin, her hair long and uneven, her arms covered in faint scars and smudges of marker. Her face was gaunt. But the eyes were the same green hazel with flecks of amber. Lena's eyes. Amelia flinched. "No, you're a voice. One of the simulations they keep sending you to test me." Lena stepped closer, careful not to spook her. "I'm real. I promise you I'm your mom." Amelia's lips trembled. "Prove it." Lena crouched. She spoke slowly. "When you were 6, you broke your arm, falling out of the pear tree. I was right below, and you landed on me. We both cried, and then I carried you in my arms to the car, even though I twisted my ankle. You said you still caught me, like always." Amelia stared, tears welled in her eyes. "You remember that?" Lena nodded, crying now, every day slowly. Amelia reached forward and touched Lena's face with one trembling hand. Her fingers brushed the tear tracks. She pulled back, sharply. "Startled. You're warm. I'm real." Amelia began to sob. It took time to coax her out. She didn't. "Trust the door or the lights, or Maya," she kept asking. "Where are the watchers? Are the sounds off? Is the sky clean?" Maya moved quietly, mapping a path out. "No cameras working. This wing's a dead zone. We can walk out if we go now." Lena wrapped Amelia in a blanket from the cut. "I'm taking you home," she whispered. "We'll go slow. You don't have to understand everything now. Just follow my voice." But as they reached the hallway, Amelia froze. Her body stiffened. She turned her head sharply, like she was hearing something no one else could. The tone she whispered. Then louder, the tones back. Suddenly the radio on Lena's hip crackled violently. "Stay, Wumps." A distorted sound tone pierced the silence, a low frequency pulsing rhythmically. Amelia screamed and dropped to the floor, clutching her ears. Lena tried to shut the radio off. It wouldn't power down. Maya yanked the batteries. The signal continued without power. "It's being broadcast through the building." Maya shouted through the walls. Amelia screamed louder. Then suddenly she began repeating words. "Back to the room, back to the light, forget, forget, forget." Lena dropped beside her, grabbing her face in her hands. "Look at me. Amelia, look at my eyes. This is real. You're not dreaming. Don't listen to them." But the girl was caught in a loop, her mind fraying like a broken tape. Lena did the only thing she could think of. She began to sing a lullaby, the same one she'd sung every night, years ago before bedtime, the one about stars and rabbits and dreams that waited just beyond the clouds. Amelia gasped, her eyes locked onto her mother's. She reached forward and clutched Lena so tightly it hurt. I remember she whispered. The sound tone stopped and the hallway was silent again. They didn't wait. Maya led them back through the tunnel, up the stairs into the night. Amelia moved like someone walking for the first time. Lena kept her hand gripped tightly. By the time they reached the Jeep, the stars were out. Lena opened the back door. "Let's go." But Amelia hesitated. I don't know how to be in the outside." "You don't have to know." Lena said. "You just have to come with me along." "Beat then," quietly. "Okay." The drive back to town was quiet, except for the wind outside and the faint hum of tires on asphalt. Amelia lay curled in the back seat, covered in blankets. Her eyes darted to the windows every few seconds, as if expecting to see something. Someone trailing them in the dark. Lena sat beside her, never letting go of her hand. Maya drove her eyes flicking between the road and the rear-view mirror. No one spoke until the lights of Copper Ridge came into view. Do we go to the hospital or the police first? Maya asked. Lena looked at her sister. Neither. We go to Detective Rosenthal. Ma's brow arched. He's retired. He's the only one who believed me for the first 2 years he owes me. Detective Samuel Rosenthal hadn't aged well when Lena and Maya arrived at his cabin outside town. The once solid investigator now had a gray beard, sunken eyes, and a limp that made him look as if the earth pulled a little harder on his bones. But when he opened the door and saw Amelia standing behind Lena, his hand dropped the mug he was holding. Christ, he whispered, it's her. Lena nodded. We need your help, and your files, all of them. Inside, over hot tea and a heated blanket for Amelia, they laid out the entire story. The recordings, the signal, the bunker, the journal, the radio frequency, the voice simulations, the tones. Rosenthal said nothing for a long time. Then he walked into a back room and returned with a locked metal box. Back in the early 90s, he began. There was a military contractor operating out of Echo Vale. Name was Therich, a subsidiary of a now-defunct defense firm called ProSyn Corporation. And they were rumored to be running cognitive modulation trials, basically programming emotional responses with sound. He unlocked the box and pulled out several old photographs and a file marked Project Hollow. Maya's head snapped up. That name came up in the facility. Rosenthal nodded grimly. I wasn't supposed to keep these, but after Amelia went missing, I looked into everything I could. The company used deep tone frequencies combined with emotional memory triggers, mostly with PTSD patients. It got dark. A few test subjects broke down. Permanently, Lena flipped through the files. Why children? They needed developing brains. He said the theory was that younger subjects could form new audio memory bridges more easily if you could train someone to respond to certain tones or words with absolute loyalty or fear or calm. You could build soldiers or silence dissent. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. And Amelia wasn't the only one. Lena's hand froze. What, there were others. 3 missing persons cases from nearby counties, similar profiles. 1 boy, 2 girls, all vanished between 2008 and 2014. All reported hearing strange signals before they disappeared. Nobody ever made the connection. Maya slammed her palm on the table. They weren't lost. They were taken, groomed, brainwashed. Somebody kept the project alive. Rosenthal said, even after the went under. Lena stared at her daughter. Amelia was quiet, eyes scanning the room like it was a dream she hadn't fully entered yet. I need to get her to a hospital, Lena said. I know, Rosenthal said, but first, there's one more place you should see. An hour later, Rosenthal led them to a long, abandoned industrial building near the train yard. The outer sign had long since been removed, but the glass door still had a faded white outline. ProN Communications' private property inside. They found rows of soundproof booths, now coated in dust and decay. In one room, Maya powered up a still-working server backup and pulled down logs from the network. The files were partial, but one stood out. File Hollow Residual Protocol, not dead. She opened it. If a subject is recovered prematurely, initiate residual protocol trigger, secondary tones embedded within deep memory. These tones are irreversible and self-reinforcing. Subject will experience confusion, paranoia, and eventually full cognitive collapse without booster exposure. Maya's voice shook. It's like a kill switch. If they escape, they break. Lena palled. But Amelia hasn't collapsed. She's close, Maya said. We have to help her unlearn the tones, remove the trigger associations, rebuild her reality. How Amelia spoke for the first time since they entered the building. You sing. They turned to her. I don't know how I remembered, she said, voice fragile but clear. But when you sang, it canceled out the sound. It broke the loop. Lena felt tears rise again. So we keep singing, she whispered. Amelia nodded. They left the facility, files in hand, and drove straight to the hospital. A sympathetic intake nurse got them into a quiet room as doctors took her vitals and ran basic neurological checks. Amelia clung to Lena's hand, watching every corner of the room for shadows that weren't there. Dr. Nielsen, a trauma specialist, arrived with a calm demeanor and a gentle tone. She's stable. He said some vitamin deficiencies, but no signs of brain damage. Her responses to stimuli suggest long-term isolation, severe psychological conditioning, but no organic harm. That's good news. What about the tones? Lena asked. Nielsen's face darkened. That part's more complex. We'll need sound therapy, neurofeedback, immersive memory regression. It's going to take time. I'll stay with her, Lena said, and I'll monitor the broadcasts, Maya added. If whoever did this is still out there, they'll try again, Nielsen nodded. I believe you, and I'll support this as long as I can, as he left. Amelia lay back on the bed, eyes closing. Lena leaned in. Want me to sing you something? Amelia didn't answer, so Lena began to hum softly. In the same tune, Amelia's breathing slowed, her hand curled around her mother's, and for the first time since she was 8 years old, she slept 3 days after Amelia's rescue. Lena still hadn't left the hospital. She slept in the reclining chair beside her daughter's bed, ate cafeteria food, and kept her phone permanently charged in case Maya called with updates. Amelia hadn't spoken much since that first night, but she'd started drawing strange, swirling shapes, spirals, waveforms, and crude figures connected by what looked like wires or sound waves. Lena recognized one pattern immediately, the Kenwood tuner's dial layout. Whatever had been done to Amelia, it wasn't just psychological. It was embedded in the way she saw the world through signals, channels, and control. On the morning of the 4th day, Lena awoke to Maya standing beside her, holding a laptop and a look of dark excitement. I found him, she said. Lena rubbed her eyes. Who? Maya sat on the edge of the window sill, lowered her voice. The person who designed the original tone, algorithm for Project Hollow. His name's Boone Mallister. He was a military sound tech, turned contractor, disappeared around 2015. But guess what? He's alive using an alias. Elias Ford lives up in a cabin near Minor Peak, completely off-grid. People think he's some eccentric ham radio guy. Lena sat up straighter. He helped create what they did to Amelia. He wrote the code that taught the brain to associate certain frequencies with specific emotional responses. Basically, he weaponized memory. Then we need to talk to him. The drive to Miner's Peak took 4 hours. Boone Mallister's cabin was tucked into the northern edge of the mountain pass. The gravel road up was lined with abandoned logging signs, and Maya had to switch into 4-wheel drive. Halfway up, they parked near a clearing. Smoke drifted lazily from a chimney. Looks quiet, Maya said, pulling a small taser from her glove compartment. But let's assume nothing. As they approached, a figure appeared in the doorway. Tall, bearded, early 60s. His eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses locked onto Lena. First, you're not lost, he said. No. Lena replied, but something is my daughter. Boone stared for a beat, then turned and walked back inside without a word. Maya gave Lena a look. Lena followed him. In the interior smelled of pine wood and saw radio parts were strewn across every surface. Paper charts lined the walls, wave patterns, frequency grids, scribbled equations. It looked like a combination of a workshop, a bunker, and a shrine to failed science. Boone sat at a workbench and gestured to a pair of old wooden chairs. Sit. But don't lie, we won't, Lena said. Maya remained standing. Boone leaned back. So she survived. She's in a hospital now. Lena said she was held for 12 years, indoctrinated, conditioned, tortured with those tones. Boone closed his eyes, as if the words physically hurt. It wasn't supposed to work on children, not like that, but it did. Ma snapped, and it was continued long after your exit. I warned them, Boone said, voice low. When I left Proen, I deleted all my research. I burned the protocols, the maps, the schematics. But I wasn't the only one working on it. There were others. They called them audio shepherds. People who believed they could use tone control to create better citizens. Better, Lena repeated. They ruined her. Boone opened a drawer and removed an old audio cassette. This is why I left. It's called the resonance breaker. It's an anti-tone, a deconditioning frequency I built in. Secret never released it. I didn't know if it worked. What does it do? Maya asked it, introduces instability into the memory bridges, softens the emotional bind, makes the brain question what it believes it knows. Lena leaned forward. Could it help Amelia? Boone didn't answer directly. It could also wipe her entirely if she's too fragile. Lena took the cassette. We'll try it gently, slow exposure in a controlled setting. Boone met her eyes. You really love her. She's my daughter, he nodded. Once. Then I'll come with you, Maya raised a brow. Why? I want to see if redemption's possible back at the hospital. The doctors weren't thrilled with Boone's presence or the cassette, but Lena had authority over Amelia's. Care Dr. Nielsen agreed to let them test the resonance breaker in the neurotherapy suite under supervision. Amelia was hesitant but curious when she saw the tape. Her expression shifted. That's the shape from my dreams. Boone sat across the room and spoke for the first time. You remember it because they trained you on a looped frequency. This one is different. It'll sound like the same shape. But it leads out, not deeper in. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, Boone said. But you can trust the music. They played the tone. It was soft, barely audible. A shimmering hum with a strange dissonance beneath, like wind blowing through a flute in reverse as it played. Amelia sat very still, and then she began to cry, but not in fear. She reached for Lena's hand. I can see the house, she whispered. Our porch, your voice on the phone, my room, the pink glow stars on the ceiling. Lena was weeping too. You're remembering, I think I'm coming back. The resonance breaker worked too well by the second day of treatment. Amelia could recall specific memories with startling clarity. Her 7th birthday party, her favorite cereal, the time she skinned her knee during a bike race with her cousin. Her emotional responses, joy, fear, sadness, returned naturally. No longer triggered by tones or control phrases, but with every breakthrough came another effect. Bleed. It started small. The hospital's intercom systems began emitting faint tones before messages. The fluorescent lights in Amelia's room flickered at random intervals in rhythm with an unseen signal. Maya noticed at first. She tapped into the hospital's server and found unauthorized access points, low-level pings trying to piggyback onto the hospital's audio network. They know she's awake. Maya said. Lena's stomach turned cold. Who's they? Boone stood in the doorway of the hospital suite, pale and tight-lipped, ones who stayed in the project after I left. They didn't want to release control. The signal you're seeing is part of the fail-safe protocol. If a subject begins to break orbit, they re-engage the source tone remotely. Lena looked at Amelia, who was seated on the floor, drawing again. Her hands were steady, her face calmer. But her eyes flicked to every flicker of light or beep from the machines. We have to stop it. Lena said she can't go through this again. Later that evening, the hospital intercom crackled code 245, pediatric wing standby. Lena jumped. Did you hear that? Boone rushed to the nearest wall panel and tore off the casing. Inside was a hidden speaker array. Not hospital standard. Maya arrived seconds later. They patched in. These aren't standard tones. They're microbursts, subsonic frequencies injected between announcements. Boone swore under his breath. They're accelerating, trying to reprogram her over the air. Amelia clutched her ears and dropped to the floor, back to the room. Forget the window. The sky is dangerous. Lena knelt beside her number. You're safe. You're not going back. Amelia trembled. I see the watchers again. They're not real. They were never people. Amelia whispered. They were sounds in skin. Lena held her tighter. Then listen to my voice, just mine. Boone and Maya worked quickly, ripping the audio relay out of the wall, replacing it with an analog blocker from Boone's equipment. The moment they did, the tone stopped. Amelia relaxed, her body slumped into her mother's arms, and she fell into an exhausted sleep in the hospital security office. Maya confronted the on-call technician. This entire floor's audio system has been compromised. The tech, red-faced and sweating, stammered. I didn't do anything. These systems were in place before I took the job. I thought they were just backups, part of the building's renovation. Boone picked up the wiring schematics. This hospital got a retrofit 4 years ago. Same year, they're restructured into a think tank under a different name. Valence Behavioral Institute. They embedded this infrastructure on purpose. Maya said, "They're not done." Lena stormed in. "Then we end it." Mia's jaw clenched. "We can't do it from here. We need the original broadcast node." The central repeater where Lena asked. Boone hesitated. There's only one place it could be strong enough to override city infrastructure. He pulled out a crumpled map of Echo Vale and pointed to the center site, zero deepest part of the valley, underground command station. It was sealed after the collapse, but he paused. "I know a way in," Lena looked at Amelia, now resting peacefully. The red light of a bio-monitor pulsing in sync with her breath. She turned to Boone and Maya. "Then let's shut it down the next morning." Amelia woke stronger. She dressed herself, ate breakfast, even smiled at a nurse who brought her juice. When Lena asked if she remembered what happened during the tone bleed, Amelia nodded. "They were trying to put me back in the sleep," she said. "But I stayed with you. You always will," Lena said. Boone approached her gently. "We're going to stop them now. You've already done the hardest part. Will they try to take me again?" "No," Lena said firmly. "We're not letting them near you ever again." Amelia looked up at her mother and then at Maya and Boone. "Then take me with you." They all blinked. "No, sweetie," Lena said. "It's dangerous. I know where the center is." Amelia said, "I was there once, a long time ago." Boone froze. "You've been to Site 0. I saw the tunnel, the black gate." And the man with no face, Boone, sat down heavily. "The sensory deprivation wing. That's where they held the first test subjects. She remembers. Maya said she could lead us in." Lena didn't want to say yes, but the look in Amelia's eyes wasn't the blank confusion. From days ago, it was purpose they left at nightfall. Maya packed a field kit, EM blockers, spectrum jammers, shortwave gear, and a portable server node. Boone brought the last remaining anti-Tonone cassettes, stored in reinforced tape decks. Lena brought a photo of Amelia as a child and a promise in her heart. Amelia brought nothing but, as they drove toward Echo Vale again, she quietly whispered, "I know the way through the dark." The entrance to Site 0 was hidden beneath what remained of an old ranger outpost, long since claimed by moss and rot. Beneath a rusted trap door, cleverly disguised under a bed of pine needles, lay a steep staircase that vanished into darkness. They reached it just before dawn. Amelia was the first to speak. "This is the place." Lena gripped her hand. "You sure?" Amelia nodded. "There's a metal room at the bottom. A voice used to come from it. He told me how the sky ended." Boone adjusted the heavy tape recorder on his shoulder. "That would be the command node. Every test subject's tones were managed from there. Audio loops, emotional overlays, sensory timers." Maya flicked her flashlight on and started descending. "Let's end it then." The air inside Site 0 was thicker than any place they'd been. Not just humid, charged like static lived in the walls. The stairs spiraled down through reinforced concrete until they reached a narrow platform leading to a sealed vault door. Maya plugged in her field tablet. "This whole place is powered by an isolated loop. Probably geothermal, no connection to any surface grid. That's why the tones never stopped." She pulled up an access protocol and ran a bypass. After a tense 40 seconds, and the door hissed and slid open. Inside was a dome-shaped room, filled with terminals, blinking lights, and acoustic panels, most of which were cracked or torn. A massive speaker system hung from the ceiling like a shrine. In the center was a single steel chair, bolted to the floor. "I sat there," Amelia whispered. Lena didn't answer. Her legs felt like they might give out. Boone slowly walked toward the terminals. "These panels are still active. Someone's still sending signal." Maya nodded toward the far side. "I've got a second signal path. Not automated, manual override. Someone's been here recently." Boone said that's when they heard it. Footsteps light, but deliberate, coming from a corridor to their left. Amelia didn't move. She stared straight at the corridor and said, "He's still down here." The footsteps grew louder. Then a man stepped into the room. He was clean-cut, mid-40s, wearing a lab coat and an ID badge that read, Dr. Ellen Voss. Valence Institute. Lena instinctively stepped in front of Amelia. I was wondering when you'd come, the man said calmly. You've caused quite a stir bringing her here, Bold. Maya lifted the taser in warning. You want Bold? Try me, Voss. Raised his hands. Please, no need for threats. You're too late anyway. The system is ending. The signal chain has already been set to purge. Boone stepped forward. You ran Hollow's continuation, didn't you? I refined it. Voss said, remove the instability, the earlier models. Your models were crude, but with Amelia, Lena snapped. She's not your test subject. She's my daughter. Voss tilted his head. She was a breakthrough, the first subject to survive the full tone spectrum and retain identity. Do you know what that means? I know she suffered for 12 years while you played God. She's the template, Mrs. Kerr. She doesn't just respond to tones. She emits them. Her memory architecture can influence others. We were going to change how humanity stores. Pain, Boone's face was ashen. You made her a broadcaster. Voss nodded. But now that she's breaking free, the system degrades without her link. The signal collapses, Ma snapped. Good, then shut it down. I can't. He said only she can. She's still tied to the core memory loop. If she cuts the last node, the frequency ends. Lena turned to Amelia. Can you do it? Amelia looked at the room slowly. She walked toward the chair. No, Lena grabbed her. You don't have to sit in that again. Amelia looked into her mother's eyes. I remember everything now. But if I don't shut it down, they'll find another me, somewhere else. Boone stepped forward. We don't know what it'll do to you, I know, Amelia said. But I'm not afraid of the tone anymore. She sat the moment her body touched the steel. The room hummed to life. The overhead speaker crackled, and an old tone returned low. Modulating and familiar. Voss smiled faintly. There it is, last loop. Lena rushed toward him, slamming him against the wall. If she doesn't survive this, I swear. But Voss was already fading, his voice a whisper. You'll thank me when you forget the pain. And then he collapsed dead. A capsule fell from his mouth already. Dissolved. Boone checked his pulse. Cyanide bastard had a fail-safe of his own. Lights flared across the room. Maya shouted, Signal spike, she's triggering the purge. Amelia's body tensed, her hands gripping the chair arms. The speakers emitted a strange, warped reverse tone. Like all the pain ever embedded in the system was being sucked back into the walls. Lena ran to her. Amelia, hold on. Amelia didn't scream. She sat very still, her lips moving back to the start, back to the song, back to the sky that didn't fall. The room began to shake. Panels burst from the walls. Screens went black. Maya grabbed Boone. The system's imploding. We need to move. Lena refused to leave Amelia. I'm not leaving her. Amelia turned her head slowly. Her eyes met Lena's. I'm okay, she stood. The speakers exploded and everything went quiet outside. The morning air was still. The birds had returned to Echo Vale. The signal was gone. Amelia walked unaided to the jeep. Lena never let go of her hand. Boone burned the final tape. Maya crushed the last frequency chip. And together, they left the valley behind, forever. 3 weeks later, Amelia Kerr sat on the back porch of her childhood home, wrapped in a knitted shawl, sipping from a mug of chamomile tea. The sun had just crested over the trees, casting a pale orange light on the grass. The wind rustled through the leaves, and for once the breeze didn't sound like a signal. She blinked into the quiet and whispered, It's not loud anymore. Inside the house, Lena froze at the sound of her daughter's voice. Calm, steady, unprompted. She stepped out onto the porch, a cup of coffee in hand. You slept? Lena said. Amelia nodded. It wasn't the kind of sleep they taught me. No dreams in code, just blackness and then light. Lena sat beside her close, but not crowding. She'd learned in the past 21 days that Amelia's mind operated like a tuning dial. Too much signal, too many emotions, too fast, and she'd short-circuit. So Lena had learned to speak slower, softer, to let silence live between the words. Do you want to try something today? Lena asked to walk the bookstore. Amelia hesitated. I think maybe I could go to the backyard alone. Lena smiled. That's more than enough. That's more than a Progress came in fragments. At first, Amelia barely left her room, afraid that opening doors might unleash loops again. But over time, she rediscovered pieces of herself through smells, fresh laundry sensations, grass on bare feet, and sounds that once scared her, but now brought peace birds' rains, the hum of the fridge. She still didn't like music. Too structured, too patterned, but she liked when Lena sang, "You don't sing in lines." She once said, "You sing in curves. That's safer." Lena often cried in the shower quietly, so Amelia wouldn't hear. But she also laughed more than she had in years. Especially when Amelia made awkward observations like, "Why do people keep checking in? Isn't it strange that humans ask how you're doing but don't actually want the long answer? Or is tea just emotional water?" Maya visited twice a week, bringing her laptop and analog equipment. She helped Amelia learn to filter digital noise. Not just avoid it together, they built a kind of sonic firewall, a protective background hum that kept Amelia from being overstimulated by modern life. Boone wrote them once from a coastal town in Oregon, a short letter. "You were the breakthrough, not the system, not the tones. I was wrong to design it. I'll never stop being sorry, but you taught me what real resilience sounds like. I'm learning to forget the signal too." Amelia burned the letter in the fireplace. "I don't want to be anyone's miracle," she said. "I just want to be Amelia." Lena kissed her forehead and said, "That's all I ever wanted too." The town whispered, "Of course it did." Copper Ridge was too small, not to the girl who went missing 12 years ago, just walked into the general store one Tuesday and asked for cereal, the same kind she'd eaten before she vanished, and she didn't answer questions. But she smiled sometimes. That was enough. One Sunday afternoon, Lena took Amelia to the old butterfly garden, now rebuilt as a community park. Amelia stood frozen at the entrance, staring at the new mural, a child reaching toward the sky painted in brilliant blue and yellow. "I used to play here," she said. "I remember this place." She took a step forward, then another. Lena watched her daughter walk into the garden where she had last seen her as a little girl before the signal. And this time, Amelia turned back and smiled that evening as they made dinner. Lena asked a quiet question. "Do you remember the song I used to sing, the one with the rabbit and the moon?" Amelia nodded. "You sang it when I was sick, when I had fevers or nightmares. I think you sang it when you realized I was gone." Lena bit her lip. "I did every night." Amelia looked at her. "Sing it again." Lena did, and halfway through, Amelia joined in. Their voices were soft and imperfect, but real somewhere in a sealed government archive. A man in a pressed gray suit stared at a blinking light. On a dormant console, the signal had ended and the tones had gone quiet. But beneath the silence, a new pattern was forming. Not control, not fear, choice. Then somewhere, in some distant place, a child's voice whispered into an empty channel. "I know who I am now, and you can't change that anymore." End signal. If this story pulled you in, there's more where that came from. Subscribe for more haunting tales, psychological thrillers, and mysteries that echo long after the final line. And don't forget to press the bell icon, because some stories don't wait to be found. They find